guys, so I had a couple of requests for more videos on the Gray Rock method. I'm going to do my very best to add some new information and to cover it as best I can. So what is the Gray Rock method? I can't recall the author, but it was an article written that was to, how to make yourself, very boring to a psychopath. I think that was the original article. And that's the idea behind the Gray Rock method. Is you want to make yourself super boring as like a little pebble, a little gray boring pebble, because narcissists, psychopaths, sociopaths, whatever, they feed on your emotional energy, right? They're feeding on your emotions. They don't have much, or if any, inside, depending upon the level, because of course it's a spectrum, right? But they're sort of like, these people are like emotionally dead inside, so they require outside energy to feed on, and it's the only thing that makes them feel like they're alive or like they're anything. They require it to feel important and to feel powerful. So they feed on other people's emotional responses. And if you were with like a covert narcissist or like a sociopath, like a higher level on the spectrum sociopath, you may not have even realized this, because they, often they're so subtle about how they're going about like provoking an emotional response in other people. But that's what they do. Their whole thing is about like provoking emotional responses from you. That's why they do a lot of triangulation, with their affair partners or in their primary source of supply. That's why they will create and incite jealousy when you're around. They just love that. They love to make people feel jealous. They love to make people feel insecure, because it feeds on their need to feel important, right? So going Gray Rock, the best thing to do if you're with a narcissist is actually to go no contact. That is actually the very best thing you can do. And you don't even need to make a big thing about it. You just go no contact. You don't need to tell them. I will make a video in the future on the difference between the silent treatment and no contact. They're very, very different, because the intention is with no contact is to actually protect yourself from an abuser. The intention of silent treatment is to punish and hurt another person. They're very different. But with the Gray Rock, so if you can't go no contact because you have children with this person, or you work for them, they're your boss, or for some reason you still haven't decided to leave the relationship yet, okay? So these could be potential reasons why you might need to learn the Gray Rock method. And really what some strategies for doing it are, when you're communicating with them, keep your tone completely not emotional. You want to keep it very businesslike. All your responses are completely businesslike. You do not include any emotional content, and keep your responses and your interactions very brief and very boring. So if they try to talk to you and they're trying to bring up something, or they're trying to ask you about your life or anything like that, start talking about the weather. Like, just talk about the weather and be as boring as you can about the weather. You do not talk about them, your relationship with them, your past relationship with them, or do not give them any information on what you're doing with your life. Nothing. They do not need to know anything about your life. If you're, dating somebody wonderful, or if you're, after you got out of a relationship with them, or if you're going to get married or anything like that, they need to have no information. You just keep it very businesslike and keep it very Gray Rock, very, very boring. And a way to do this without alerting them, so you don't really want them to know that you're like drastically using this new strategy to deal with them, because if you've been doing the old way, which is feeding them emotional content and getting them just gorged like a tick that's been sucking on your blood, and they're all blown up because you've just been feeding them, right, without, unbeknownst to you, you don't want to go from that to like this obvious change in your interaction with them. So it's best to just be try to do it super subtly, and like, if they ask you a question, just just keep it real, you know, brief and sort of boring, and you don't need to, you know, try not to be super obvious about it. You could just be like, oh yeah, the rain outside, it's just really, it's been crazy, that so much rain these days. Wow, we really needed that rain. Or, you know, just try to be as like nonchalant about it as you can. And I realize this can be very hard, especially if you're newly out of the relationship and you have all this anxiety and, you know, pain over, you know, their duplicity. They probably cheated and gaslighted and lied, and maybe you didn't even know they were narcissists, but now you do. You've done all your research and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm married to a manipulator, I'm married to somebody who has no empathy. Super creepy to come to terms with that. So I understand that you may be in a different place in the, you know, sort of recovery from this toxic sort of sociopathic relationship that you were in, right? But if you have to parent with them, super, super gray rock. And I talked about this before. There's an app you can install on your phone where you can arrange for the parenting, you know, all the things that need to be communicated with parenting, with drop-off and pickups in school, you know, meetings with the children's teachers and all of that. You can do all of that via an arm's length app that you install on your phone. So that's best if you have like arm's length communication, right? And, you know, when you're talking to them, you want to be just very, think of yourself as like, I mean, I kind of think when you go into it, think of yourself as being like, you know, I'm just like, almost like I'm a robot and my job is just to keep, you know, things very, I'm Spock, I keep things very unemotional and just talk about the facts, or about content that has absolutely no personal relevance. Like, do not discuss anything to do with, you know, your feelings or your personal life or their personal life or anything to do with like emotions. You got to think of it like they don't have any emotions, they're dead inside. They have like a big gaping hole that they want it to be filled with other people's emotions. And that could be negative emotion, that could be positive emotion, it doesn't really matter. Yes, they prefer positive, that's what they prefer, but they will absolutely settle for negative because anything will feed them. And your job is to not provide food to that big black gaping hole that is just hungry and hungry and hungry to, you know, suck you dry. Your job is, you're not feeding them. You're not feeding the tick. You're not giving the tick your blood so that they can get engorged and giant off sucking off your blood. You are not doing that. You are just avoiding the tick, keeping the tick, you know, just kind of, you may have to be in the same room as the tick, but you're just not feeding them. You're not giving them any blood. So really keep the content super, super, super unemotional, be boring as possible. Before you go into the interaction with them, tell yourself, I'm a gray rock, I'm boring, I'm the gray boring rock, I'm a gray boring rock, I'm a gray boring rock, I have no emotional content, I'm a robot. Just go into it, like say that in mantras before you even go interact with them, and just keep it like, try to keep your expression neutral. Do not have any emotional, you know, expression on your face. If you can, you might have to practice this in the mirror. Use some of the narcissist or sociopath strategies. They practice facial expressions in the mirror. It's probably something you've never done. I never have, but maybe you should practice it for the gray rock method. I'm going to try to do some more on this, but, you know, I think that the art of subtlety is best. You don't want to become so obvious that they're onto you. Just be, you know, just be boring. I'm going to try to find out that resource about that article that was written. It's basically how to go gray rock on a sociopath or psychopath. And I will find that article and reference it in the next video I make on gray rock. I'm going to try to get a little bit deeper into it in the next video. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.